So the White House is attacking the world's biggest Bitcoin exchange, Coinbase, but not for the reasons that most people are paying attention to. Now, it is true that Coinbase once again pulled themselves out of the Clarity Act just a couple of hours before the markets closed last night on a Friday. But what most people are not paying attention to is what's happening behind closed doors. So publicly, this is all about the Clarity Act. This is all about getting de minimis tax exemptions on Bitcoin and allowing exchanges like Coinbase to get stablecoin yield. But David Sachs, the crypto czar, stepping down from his position yesterday on the same day that this bill was once again thrown out. And when you combine that strangely timed exit with yet another politician in America confirming what Scott Bessent has been saying. We can see Patrick Witt came out and tried to fearmonger us yesterday. He said, block the passage of the Clarity Act and find out what the future administration is going to do to Bitcoin. He's saying, look, even though there's a couple of worrying terms and rules and regulations still inside the Clarity Act, we just need to pass it immediately. I'm starting to think that there's a little bit of a coordinated plan here playing out. And I'll remind you what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said about those people who continue to refuse passing the Clarity Acts.
Act across the finish line, and any market participants who don't want it should move to El Salvador.
Any market participants who don't want it should move to El Salvador. Now, what if I told you that the Clarity Act, in its current stance, it's essentially a digital ID for America and Bitcoin? I know that sounds crazy, but let's actually dive into some of the hairy details surrounding this Clarity Act that most people aren't paying attention to. Everybody's saying, oh, this is a fight about stablecoin yield and getting de minimis tax exemptions on Bitcoin. And what I think we're being set up for, I think we're being set up to maybe we're going to see a de minimis tax exemption on Bitcoin, but they're going to ram through the Clarity Act with all of this inside it. Let's break it down because I got a really good article and a tweet to break down what's happening. So Senator Cynthia Lummis retweeted this tweet from Jake Shavinsky yesterday. So we can see Jake says the current draft of the Clarity Act has provisions in Title III that undermine and subject all sorts of non-custodial software developers to KYC obligations anyway. These sections must be fixed or the bill doesn't work for DeFi. Now, I don't necessarily care about DeFi, so I don't think if the bill doesn't work for DeFi, then it doesn't work at all. I'm more concerned about the specific red flags that Jake Shavinsky is talking about. So we can see I asked ChatGPT to summarize the Clarity Act for me. We can see there's a lot of red flags. KYC and AML will potentially be extended into the software layer of Bitcoin. And this is the broader quote unquote crypto space as well. But I want to show you the most important red flag that I came across. It's very important. So the problem right now, traditionally, is KYC only applies to custodians and exchanges. But with this Clarity Act, it could be extended to also hit all DeFi participants and the software interfaces. So this is front-end developers, this is protocol interfaces, wallet providers, and smart contract deployers. This is reminding me about the 34-page white paper the US Treasury quietly tried to sneak under our noses 2 weeks ago. Again, I'll remind you, for those who missed our deep dive video on this topic on the channel, they raised a very interesting new bill that they actually call the hold law. Now, this isn't actually the most concerning part about this bill. We can see they have a new hold law, and this would, don't worry, temporarily freeze people's assets if they are even suspected of a crime, here we go, Congress should consider enacting a digital asset specific hold law. But don't worry, such a law would consider transparency when an asset is frozen and customer protection measures. And again, such a law would be particularly useful for countering illicit finance involving permitted payment stable coins. So this report, it was published on March 11th from memory. And again, why are they talking about stable coins being frozen? Is it because they know that a version of the Clarity Act will eventually be passed, but it's going to be passed forcing all sorts of wallet providers, developers, and anybody touching anything inside the space to KYC this beautiful thing, Bitcoin. I think that's what they know they're going to get rammed through. But again, this Treasury report, 34-page report that nobody's talking about, the biggest concern and red flag about this report that kind of brings it back to the Clarity Act is, I don't know if you guys can see, but I have 75 mentions of digital IDs in this 34-page Treasury report published 2 weeks ago. Think about that for a moment. America's not supposed to have a digital ID. Why do we have Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent publishing 34-page white papers mentioning digital IDs 75 times at the exact same time that we have politicians trying to ram through the Clarity Act? Something smells fishy to me. And when you look at the hairy details of the Clarity Act, it all kind of starts making more sense. Because all of these provisions and red flags that I asked ChatGPT to dig out of the Clarity Act, they all kind of go back to digital IDs. Again, if you have to KYC front-end developers, wallets, smart contract deployers, that is a digital ID. Second red flag, KYC AML expansion into non-custodial layers. So that's anybody who holds a wallet. This is a digital ID. Red flag number 3, it's going to make Bitcoin and the whole space a lot more centralized if the US Treasury has oversight over the entire industry. And here's another one. The SEC authority is not fully removed. So if we go back to the fear-mongering politician, I don't know the guy, he could be a good guy. I just think this is a suspiciously worded tweet. Patrick Witt says, I wonder how a future Democrat administration will handle stablecoin rewards and developer protections and DeFi and the line between digital commodities and securities, etc. Block passage of the Clarity Act to find out. So what Patrick's doing here, let me decode this cryptic tweet. What he's doing is he's saying, hey, you know, we're kind of giving you some clarity. We're kind of saying a lot of these altcoins are allowed. They've openly said that altcoins like Ripple, Ethereum, Solana, they can all be commodities, not securities. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to dangle a little carrot in front of us and get us to bite on that carrot. And I am warning you, do not take that carrot. This is a side plot. What they're trying to do is, look, things could be so much worse if the Democrats get in. You need to rush through this Clarity Act in its current state and just ignore the fact that it's a digital ID because we're letting you trade your shitcoins. You can buy XRP or the Solana ETF that BlackRock's going to launch soon. Just forget about the fact that now we KYC the on-ramps, the developers, the protocols, the wallets, everything in DeFi is now Fi. It's no longer decentralized, it's financialized. It's kind of insane what they're doing here. This would be wild if Cash Patel is hacked. I might come back to Cash Patel later, but again, what we're going to remind you, another interesting twist to this story. And another element to this story that makes me think there's something sinister going on behind closed doors is the timing again, not only of David Sachs leaving the White House, but Coinbase rolling out yet another quote unquote win for the industry. So most of you guys would have seen that the $4 trillion giant Fannie Mae, the largest mortgage provider and lender and borrower in America, is now rolling out Bitcoin-backed mortgages. This is, once again, it's being painted as a win. They're saying, look, you can borrow against your Bitcoin and shitcoins and get a mortgage in America. And again, the cool thing, I'll give credit where credit is due. The cool thing is, even if the price of Bitcoin or your shitcoin drops by 50%, it actually doesn't matter. You don't need to top up your collateral, which is actually a big win, and it's very interesting. But I'm more interested in the timing of this. This comes out on the same day that we get more debate and more fight and more haggling over this Clarity Act. All I'm seeing is more and more signs suggesting that something deeper is happening behind the doors here. Again, I'll remind you, what is the real criminal activity? It's KYC. This little circular meme kind of summarizes it and everything that we're seeing around the world. Because you guys might not have noticed, but the European Commission came out yesterday and they confirmed that hackers had stole 350 gigabytes worth of poor European citizens' identity data. And this is why this meme kind of summarizes everything. Give us more data to make sure it's you. Uh-oh, we've been breached. Your data is for sale on the dark web. Your identity has been stolen. Give us more data to make sure it's you. And it's this perpetuating cycle of more theft and more reasons, more importantly, for theft to occur. Again, a lot of people we're going to bring this back to the US Treasury in a moment and the Clarity Act. But right now we're seeing one of the biggest examples of this play out in the Middle East. The Fed's balance sheet started growing in December 2025. For the first time in 4 or 5 years, the Federal Reserve is printing money. They're devaluing your savings. And we didn't know where that money was going or what they were preparing for. And of course, they roll out the excuse or the scapegoat a couple of months later. And, sadly, a lot of people think that the conflict in the Middle East is going to, it's going to blow over quickly. I'm not so sure because we need the justification for the big print. We know that we have this private credit crisis right now. BlackRock, Blackstone, UBS, huge banks right now are closing the doors on their private credit funds. And they're saying, sorry, you can't get your own money. The banking system is incredibly leveraged. And I think the money printers are going to be fired up and they need to create a little of distractions to justify the coming printing. I'll talk about the printing more in a moment. Here's my question, because this is a true comment. This is a factual comment. Why did David Sachs not just extend his role? Let's break it down so you guys know what we're talking about, because we do have an article I want to read for David Sachs, and I'll let you guys come to your own conclusions as to why David Sachs left, what the official explanation is, and why it's kind of, let's call it what it is, related to another key person and a key part of the American Bitcoin plan also departing the White House. Again, I want you to just keep this in the back of your mind. Bo Hines was supposed to be the guy. He was Trump's right-hand crypto man. You can see him in a photo with Trump. He was the crypto advisor, Bo Hines. And then in August 2025, he left without an explanation as to why. Keep that in the back of your mind. We also saw Jason Lowry. He was, once again, working with the White House in 2023 and 2024. He left. He wrote a book, Soft War, encouraging nation states to implement a strategic Bitcoin reserve. The US government asked him to remove his book off the internet. Just keep those two data points in the back of your mind when we go through this David Sachs story. Maybe I'm just connecting dots that aren't there, but I'm telling you, when something smells fishy, I'll say, hey, that's a fish. So the official story. Sachs hit the 130-day limit for a special government employee, and he's now moved in a position to co-chair PCAST, and he has left the Clarity Act and market structure reform without their chief White House crypto czar. It's David Sachs. And this is, again, why the timing of all of this is interesting. Because why is the Clarity debate, why is it going on for a couple of months? What I'm seeing, just again, the timing of all of this is strange. What happens if Trump rams through a version of the Clarity Act that essentially forces through a digital ID, and he just does the same thing he did with Fauci? Oh, I didn't have the proper support behind me to discern what was totalitarian and what wasn't. Who remembers Operation Warp Speed? I mean, it's a very easy leg to stand on here. Trump could say, look, I was following the rules. My crypto czar, he was only allowed in this special government employee status for 130 days. When he left, I lost all the guidance that I needed to make a good decision for the people of America. Just a scenario. We can see David Sachs stepped down on Thursday. I haven't seen an official explanation that makes sense. He's now taken on a broader advisory role covering AI, quantum computing, and nuclear power. So he's going to work with other PCAST members, including Mark Andreessen, Jensen Huang, Mark Zuckerberg, and early Coinbase backer, Fred Ursam. I think I butchered that name. And this is the kicker here. This departure of David Sachs closes a tenure that reshaped the federal government's posture towards digital assets, but left its biggest deliverables unfinished. Sachs drove the passage of the Genius Act on stablecoins and championed the creation of the strategic Bitcoin reserve, but we don't have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. We have Scott Bessent saying America will not buy any more Bitcoin. They will continue confiscating assets. Again, what I want you guys to pay attention to, all of this seems to be going back to the Treasury. The Treasury, Scott Bessent, was very clear last year when he got questioned on Fox News. He said, oh no, we're not going to be buying any more Bitcoin, but we will continue confiscating assets. And then more recently, we have this report came out, the 34-page whopper, that's what it is, big pile of steaming shit, that mentions digital IDs 75 times. That's a whopper. That's a big steaming pile of turd. Now, I want to connect the dots here to the Fannie Mae Freddie Mac story and maybe why there could be an explanation as to why Bo Hines went to the private sector. Here's the thing. What's the explanation? Why did Bo go and work with Tether? That's a story I want to dive into in a moment. First, I just want to fix the Twitter. I think I've got issues on the Twitter. Again, if you are on Twitter, come join us on YouTube. Okay. I think I fixed that. Because here's the thing. A lot of people will say maybe I'm reaching a little bit. Where's that tweet? But all of the timelines of all of this is just coincidental. What do they say? When you've got one interesting event, it's just an isolated event. Could be random. But when you've got Bo Hines, cryptos are David Sachs, and you've got flailing policy when it comes to the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Again, it's been over a year, since Donald Trump signed an executive order. And he said, within 30 days, the Treasury, Scott Bessent, has to come back to me and show me exactly how much Bitcoin we hold in the strategic Bitcoin reserve. We've heard nothing. It's been over a year. So the US Treasury is either very incompetent or they're openly ignoring an executive order signed by the president. They haven't bought any more Bitcoin, and they've published in 34-page reports talking about digital IDs 75 times. I don't know about you guys, But I'm going to tell you if something looks fishy, something smells fishy. And all of this smells fishy. This brings me to the mortgage news. Yes, the mortgage market's huge. It's $370 trillion in size. And Coinbase, on the same day that they ripped up the next version of the Clarity Act, they said, look, bullish news. This is good. We have Fannie Mae now accepting Bitcoin for mortgages. And like we said earlier, this is actually kind of positive news, especially if you don't have to actually increase the collateral if your Bitcoin goes down in value. This is very interesting. The only concerning thing that I'm seeing is you've got to trust Coinbase. And this, once again, just kind of continues the trend of something we've been paying attention to here on the channel. Centralization of Coinbase. Who remembers what happened recently with Morgan Stanley entering the space and launching their own Bitcoin trust? We noted that it was kind of interesting, that this was different to most standard Bitcoin ETFs. Not only because of the price, we can see Morgan Stanley's price is the cheapest. So this is going to imply it's going to attract a lot of capital. But it's interesting because they're not only just using Coinbase as the custodian, they're also using BNY Mellon. Again, for those of you guys who missed that stream, we can see, let me search for it. Oh, that's insane. Okay, I'll just find it. We can see the custodians for Morgan Stanley's Bitcoin Trust. It is Coinbase and BNY Mellon. Now, in that live stream last week, I pointed to the fact that most of these other spot Bitcoin ETFs, this is the Fidelity products, ARX products, Bitwisers, BlackRocks, they all use Coinbase, except for Fidelity. They self-custody their Bitcoin. So the narrative the thing that I highlighted last week in that live stream was, look, I think it's strange that you have Coinbase and BNY Mellon as co-custodians of Morgan Stanley's new Bitcoin trust. The carrot that I think is being dangled here in front of Coinbase is, hey, pass through the Clarity Act and give us the digital ID, because again, the Clarity Act in its current state, it's a digital ID in America, and we will let you custody all of the assets that are going to flow into Morgan Stanley's Bitcoin Trust. That's what I'm expecting to see. I'm expecting to see some sort of compromise with the Clarity Act, and it's going to be framed as a good thing. They're going to be saying, oh, Brian Armstrong, the man, he got Clarity Act over the line. There was all this debate about a de minimis tax exemption on Bitcoin, but now we can make a $500 Bitcoin transaction and not get taxed on it. What a win. But here's the back door that people won't be paying attention to, that Uncle Sam is going to ram through. Now, with the Clarity Act in its current form, it's a digital ID. So they're going to sell you the win in the short term. They're going to say de minimis tax exemption on Bitcoin. And a year down the road, they've now bagged, tagged, and traced every transaction in Bitcoin and the broader shitcoin ecosystem, and they're going to come after all of it. The same 37% unrealized capital gains taxes happening in the Netherlands. It's going to come to America. That's the prediction. That is what I think is happening. It's absolutely coming. And most people are going to get distracted, and they're going to eat the turd burger when the turd burger comes in. The turd burger is probably going to come in a week or two, and it's going to be framed as a good thing for Bitcoin. And I'm going to warn you, run from that turd burger. Do not bite it. It's going to taste like shit. And it's not going to be a good thing for the industry. Now, while all of this is going on, we've talked a lot about 4D chess and all of the moving pieces. We've seen some really interesting things in the space. We're seeing whales still aggressively accumulate Bitcoin, by the way. This is very interesting. This trend is, again, not slowing down. This isn't something you generally see right before a Bitcoin crash. And I do think it's kind of interesting that let's take a little bit of a peep at the Bitcoin price. If you ignore my fancy lines on a chart here, like Bitcoin's really largely traded sideways since mid-February. That's this blue line. We've gone up, we've kind of come back a little bit, but we're still setting a little bit of a higher low. This is now 6 weeks of price action. Bitcoin's kind of gone sideways, if anything, gone up. And at the same time, look at what the stock markets have done. The S&P 500 just saw $10 trillion of capital wiped off it. If you look at it since the middle of Feb, the S&P 500 is down 10%. That's trillions of dollars. Same with the NASDAQ. We can see trillions of dollars have been wiped off the NASDAQ over the past 6 weeks. NASDAQ's down about 12% from its high. Trillions. And this isn't just an American thing. This is worldwide. Right now, we are watching people dump government bonds. Like, we are right now in the beginning of the early stages of a sovereign debt crisis. Like, things are absolutely melting down. I saw this recently. The Federal Reserve is printing out of its wazoo trying to save the US Treasury market. Literally trying to save it. This is the insane thing. The debt crisis is, I think, just kind of heating up. And at the same time, we have all of this debate over Coinbase. I want to bring it back to Coinbase in a moment. But before I do, I want to just once again remind you guys, you should not be trusting Coinbase, BlackRock, any exchange with your Bitcoin. You should be putting it in one of these. This is a Bitcoin hardware wallet. If you do need help taking self-custody of your Bitcoin or just improving your Bitcoin cyber security, I always encourage you guys to reach out to my friends at the Bitcoin Way. They should be your go-to one-on-one Bitcoin coach. They can help you not only take self-custody of your Bitcoin, but they can help you improve your cybersecurity, make your communications a little bit more private, and they can even help you get a Plan B residency in a Bitcoin-friendly country. So book a free 30-minute consultation with my friends at the Bitcoin Way down below. As you can see, they work every day. They work around the clock because Bitcoin is 24/7, 365. Reach out to them if you do need help. And while we are talking about self-custody in your Bitcoin, if you have a Bitcoin hardware wallet, and if you've backed this up, so you've written down the 12 or 24 word backup phrase to your hardware wallet on paper, I always tell you how much of a critical mistake that is. Again, paper is not going to survive a fire, a flood, a hurricane. And a lot of people think that'll never happen in my country until it does. This is why I always encourage you to go and get the titanium plates that Stampseed makes. This is real metal. It's real. It's easy to use. And you can back up your Bitcoin 12 or 24 words literally in minutes with their easy DIY, do-it-yourself stamping kits. Again, take advantage of a 15% discount with promo code Luke15 if you have still not backed up your hardware wallets. This is essential. You should not be trusting Coinbase. I think what we're seeing right now with this Clarity Act kerfuffle is more of an attempt to just centralize more Bitcoin in Coinbase. Again, why are they the ones partnering up with Fannie Mae to roll out these Bitcoin-backed mortgages? Honeypots. It's honeypot central. That's what we're seeing. Let's go back to Coinbase for just a little bit more. I've got a few more things I want to show you to kind of round this story out and hopefully make it all make sense. Because again, this is a complicated topic. Appreciate the kind words. If you guys are new here, feel free to subscribe so you're notified every day we go live. Probably doing about 15 videos a month exposing the red flags that I'm seeing. And again, You don't have to agree. I'm just putting this on your radar. So this was the coordinated lobbying effort that we saw from Coinbase and Coinbase's high-ups. 3 weeks ago, when Marty Bent from TFTC exposed Coinbase for only caring about their own back pocket and the money they're making from stablecoins. We heard rumors that behind closed doors, they don't care about getting de minimis tax exemptions on Bitcoin. They just care about stablecoins. And why is that? Well, that's because old Baldilocks, Brian Armstrong, he makes $355 million, not a year, a quarter from stablecoins. This is why Brian Armstrong is blocking the Clarity Act. He'd rather keep his cuts than let trillions flow into your portfolio. Again, I don't think Bitcoin is languishing because of the Clarity Act alone. There's a lot of other factors right now impacting and influencing Bitcoin's price. I've actually got a video coming for you guys looking at a little bit more of a, let's call it what it is, coordinated attack going on right now. I'm not going to get into all that. I don't want to take too much of your time on this lovely Saturday afternoon. But I will say Coinbase is heavily incentivized to just ram through any version of the Clarity Act they can get. And again, right now, this is the table. This is the table that's been set. The enemy is Coinbase because they're not including Bitcoin in de minimis tax exemptions. I think what we're going to get served is a backflip, and it's going to be painted as a win for Coinbase. The enemy of the space, Coinbase, is going to be framed as the hero. And they're going to say, oh, wow, we got de minimis tax exemptions on Bitcoin. Ram through the Clarity Act now, even if the Clarity Act, as it currently stands, forces KYC on front-end developers, protocols, wallet providers, and smart contract deployers. Again, if I am not over the target right now, why are the Samurai wallet developers in federal prison? Why are they being locked up for 5 years? If the US government and the US Treasury is so pro-freedom and anti-CBDC, why do we have Samurai wallet developers who just created a wallet that lets people use Bitcoin more privately? Why are they locked up? They committed no crime. I mean, people will argue they committed a crime. Let me reframe. I personally just don't think that creating a piece of software and writing code is a crime. This is my thoughts. My boy, Green Candle. ChatGPT is the OG AI interface. Claudebot's overrated, and Green Candle sold me a lie on that front. Insane. Insane. I don't know about you guys, but that is what I think we're going to get served. I got a great comment here from Dwight. Love that name. Don't know if you guys can see this actually, but I have Dwight stickers on my laptop. Wonder if you can see that. Who spotted the Dwight stickers? I love The Office. But let's break down what Dwight said. The recent wording on the no CBDC in the bill that passed 89-10 in the Senate has a sunset clause. This is exactly right. It has an expiration date of December 31st, 2030. Compliments of Senator Karen. What a surprise, it's Karen. It's kind of nuts when you think about it. And again, this all goes back to what we showed you with this deep dive 34-page report from the US Treasury that nobody's talking about. It mentions digital ID 75 times. The reason why is because it's a part of the plan. Look at it. Digital IDs are going to get rolled out. I don't know whether it's happening in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, but it's absolutely happening. We're going to continue to see noise surrounding the Clarity Act. For example, speaking of the noise surrounding the Clarity Act, pretty sure I wanted to quickly show you one more video that just once again plays into the wrong narrative. What I'm concerned about is the current Clarity Act discussion. People are essentially arguing about rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. And guys, I'm telling you, the Titanic is sinking. Digital IDs are coming.
The act is really critical. The president has been clear that we need to get something enacted into law because we want to future-proof our statutory framework for crypto. We can't allow for Gary Gensler 2.0 to come in and tear it all up. And so this legislation is critical. It's all hands on deck, and we're making a push to get it done.
It's critical. Pass the Clarity Act. It's absolutely critical. Ignore the fact that it's going to give precedent to a digital ID in America because, as our politicians are saying, oh, you don't know what the future Democrats are going to do. Pass it immediately. They won't be as friendly. Block passage of the Clarity Act to find out how scary the future is going to be. That's what they're saying. Don't trust them. Watch what they're doing and watch what is tucked inside the Clarity Act. Again, I'm hopeful. Cynthia Lummis is saying we have worked on bipartisan basis for the last few weeks to make changes to Title III that make this bill the strongest protection for DeFi and developers ever enacted. We have to pass the Clarity Act to get these protections. No, I want the protections first before we pass it. Maybe that was just a poorly written sentence, but once again, guys, we need Title III changed. It's very clear. Right now, as it stands, Title III creates a digital ID in America, and they're going to come after you. This is why you seriously need to get your hands on the real Bitcoin. Get it out of Coinbase. Get it out of BlackRock. This is why I always encourage you to reach out to my friends at Blockware Solutions. They are the absolute go-to place if you want to learn about mining Bitcoin. You can save big on your taxes. You can get daily Bitcoin cash flow, and you can build your Bitcoin treasury, all while taking advantage of the bill, the big, beautiful bill that Donald Trump did pass in 2025, where you're able to actually write off capital gains to go and buy Bitcoin mining hardware. It's a no-brainer. Highly recommend you book a call with my friends at Blockware if you do want to learn more how you can mine Bitcoin and get your hands on the real thing. Because again, you're going to need your hands on the real thing. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not trusting any government or any state to protect me right now. They're going to protect their own bags, which is why we're seeing Vanguard quietly buy more MicroStrategy. By the way, Vanguard, $12 trillion in assets, just bought $680 million worth of Bitcoin. It's positive, it's bullish, it's big. And it's all happening. Again, I'll remind you, the final tool you need in your toolkit is time-locked Bitcoin wallets. If you do want to create a Bitcoin vault, whether that's time-locked or multi-signature protected, reach out to my friends at Bitvault. They're going to give you 10% off if you use the link in the description down below. And I agree with what you guys are saying. Screw the Clarity Act. Exchanges keep exchanging and banks keep banking. I don't know about you guys. I think they're all the enemy. I think the only thing safe in this world is Bitcoin in self-custody. With all that said, I'm going to sign off here, and I'll see you all